I aborted my baby because it had Down syndrome and I told my husband I had a miscarriage. We have always wanted kids but we weren't actively trying for a baby when I found out I was pregnant. I was actually on the pill and we were still using condoms, so it's still crazy to me how I fell pregnant in the first place. We know we aren't financially stable enough for a baby right now and I expected him to react badly to me telling him the news, but he was quite rational and said we will figure this out together. It's my decision what I do with my body, just overall very supportive. I decided that if he was willing to be more present at home and that if we could make it work financially, then we will keep the baby, which we decided together that yes, we are having this baby. So fast forward a few weeks, I've had 2 scans done, one to confirm my pregnancy and another to just overall check baby's growth and health. After the second scan something didn't feel right. I was getting really sick and my stomach just felt really off, so I begged my doctors to give me another scan and check up, and it turns out my baby had Down syndrome. I can't even begin to explain the feeling of my blood turned cold in that moment. We definitely could not afford to have a baby with these complications. I went into pure panic mode and told the nurse right there and then that I don't want this baby. After a small talk of her trying to convince me to think about it first, offering me support numbers before I make a decision, I was adamant, so she booked me an appointment for an abortion. I went home that day and made up a lie saying that baby wasn't looking right and they want me in for another scan later in the week. That scan was an abortion. It was not a nice experience, worse than what was described to me, and the emotional pain I feel is disgusting. A few days later I told my husband I had a miscarriage and he comforted me and we spoke about it. I told him I wanted to forget about it all and move on, seeing as it wasn't far along at all, and we can try again for real when we are ready in a few years. I will never ever tell him what I did. In my best defense, it would have ruined our marriage, run us dry of money, and I don't think we should have agreed to keep a baby in the first place because realistically we can't really afford it right now. We were planning to wait a couple more years. But it pains me knowing that if the baby didn't have Down syndrome, I would have kept it. I don't know how to feel and I can't tell anyone. No one else even knows I was pregnant other than my husband, and I can never tell him that I got our baby aborted because it had Down syndrome. I know he said he supports my decision of keeping or not keeping a baby, but I feel like he would still hate me if he knew what I did. I hope one day I can forget about this and forgive myself. This happened 2 months ago and it's haunting me. Edit. Thank you so much for the support. You all don't understand how much this truly means to me. I do however want to address a few things so I don't have to respond to many comments. A few people have speculated on the truthfulness of my experience. This hurt a little bit to read if I'm being honest. I have read a good 95% of the comments. I see and hear everyone, good and bad. I just want to state that while I wrote this post, I was shaking and crying. This was very hard for me. I have not spoken about this situation until I wrote this post down. People seem to be confused as I am missing information and seem confused about the timeline of events which led up to my abortion. I will not be going into the ins and outs, hence why I just said scans to generalize my medical procedures. I do not want to go into detail as this experience has deeply hurt me and I am still suffering the consequences of my actions for not telling my husband, which by the way I am considering telling him, thanks to everyone's support. Again, thank you all, heart, but I will not be going into depth about my medical time during this pregnancy. It doesn't feel right. I had the correct tests performed, many tests. It was not as simple as my initial post made it out to be, and I do not feel as though it's important for me to state at what stage I had an abortion. That is something I'd like to keep personal, again, hence why it was not mentioned. I know what happened and how it happened. That's all that matters to me, and the support I've received has gone above and beyond. Thank you everyone so much. This means a lot to me.